so going back to what my parents wanted, I've got a tick list there. Most of it is got green ticks, but you know, a job for life, which was everybody's dream in those days. Not today. You don't have a job for life today. You will have several different types of job in your life. Security and good income. Well, I have had good income over the years, but now I'm self-employed. I'm 69 years old, so my main source of income is my pension. And at my age, even though I have a lot of experience, if I wanted to get a job anywhere, I'd be virtually unemployable, which I think is a little bit sad, but that's the way it is. Going back to how did I do against my parents' wish list? Well, I'm the Vice President of the International Society of Digital Medicine, would you believe? And that is because of the work that I did with wearable technologies. It attracted the interest of the Chinese, and they asked me to set up a European chapter, and they appointed me as Vice President of the International Society of Digital Medicine. So I put a tick against that. A teacher, I'm not a teacher, but I was a keynote speaker at an event for teachers, the Technology Enhanced Learning Conference. And I'm not a banker, but I was a keynote speaker at the Bank Tech Asia Conference. So in a way, I can put ticks against all of these. But if you think about it, that would have been impossible in 1950. You would never imagine anybody who could have little fingers, well, quite big fingers, in several different pies, simply through the experience that you've had in your life. So, how did I do with in respect to my dream job? Has anybody got any idea what my dream job was?
Train driver.
Sorry?
Train driver.
I'll give you a copy of the book for that. Yes, it was. It was a train driver. So that was my dream job, because the characteristics of a train driver are all there.
Locomotive engineer, I should say.
Sorry?
Locomotive engineer, I should say.
But if you look at today, so what kind of life would I have had as a steam train driver? Well, there you are, a driverless train on Docklands, right? So the job has disappeared, and it disappeared in quite a quick space of time. You know, and when I reflect that the train drivers of today, the figures that I've seen in the paper, about £55,000 a year for a train driver, but the skill and ability to drive a modern train with all the technology built in is a fraction of what a steam train driver had. Now you just think about that. And so with artificial intelligence and a lot of technology that are developing today, you know, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a teacher, a lot of these things, artificial intelligence is going to take over the things that human beings did. And so the nature of these kind of jobs is going to be very, very different. So if you look, and this is the point I'm trying to make here, is how technology is accelerating. So if you look, the first 40 years, if you look at the Mini in, say, 1990, you look at the trains in 1990, look at mobile phones, the brick, you look at CD-ROM for learning was just coming in, televisions looked a little bit different. But really, if you look at the technology, it's not that major and advanced. However, if you go on less than 40 years, 30 years, we already have driverless cars. You know, the robot cars are in Milton Keynes, experimenting with those. You've got driverless trains, some really advanced ones. They keep to time perfectly. The picture there is from the new train network they've recently opened in Kuala Lumpur. It's completely driverless, so the kids sit at front of the train watching what's happening. And of course today you've got you've got mobile phone technology, but these mobile phones, they are not just mobile phones, they are, I'm going to switch this off now because it's stopped recording. They are very high quality cameras. They have a lot of intelligence built into them. And as I've just been doing, it went for about 12 minutes before it stopped broadcasting. You're able to broadcast to a worldwide audience in virtual reality with that camera and this mobile phone. If you think what the BBC do with their outside broadcasting with a huge truck and a big satellite dish on it, you know, admittedly the quality is not so good, but when I did one of these talks in a little village hall in Grafton Regis, I don't know whether you know Grafton Regis, it's not very far away from here, but the villages have a luncheon once a month, and I did a talk about technologies and heritage, and I asked people if they got any family living away, and they all sat round long tables and having dinner, and somebody said, oh, South Africa, somebody else said, oh, I've got somebody in Australia, and I said to them, oh, would it be marvellous if one of your family could join you and appear to be sat next to you while you're having this dinner? And I said, one day you'll be able to do that. And I said, that day is today. And I broadcast from Grafton Regis Village Hall using these same technologies, and it was watched live in Australia, Thailand, Lithuania and Brazil. Just with a mobile phone and a little camera like that. So I spent a bit of time going over some of the technologies. The whole point of this is to kind of set the context of some of the things that I'm going to show you now about the technologies that I'm working with today. And I'm going to do a demonstration of some of those technologies and hardware and software that's associated with them. So I started doing this quite seriously with a business development in mind. It was February 2017, so it's only about a year and a half ago, and the camera that I got at the time was very much like this camera. The first camera, it was a Ricoh Theta S camera, and so I started recording. I started recording things with this. This camera has got two lenses, so it's got a lens on the front and a lens on the back. So when I tell people I'm recording in 360, they somehow expect the camera to spin round to be able to get everything in 360, but it just stays stationary. And what happens is that when you're taking a still picture, 360 degree picture, I can control that with my smartphone. So I can set the camera up on a tripod and remotely control it. When you take a picture with one of these cameras, it takes effectively two sides of the picture, and then in the camera itself, it stitches those pictures together. So it makes one panoramic picture. And that panoramic picture goes onto your phone, and you can literally publish it there and then to Facebook or one of the other platforms that I use. So fairly recently, I also found out that Google, who have a Street View, you know, if you've ever used Street View, you can see pictures of your neighbourhood. They have a program called Trusted Pro, and so for people who are interested in taking 360 degree photographs of places that they visited, wanting to make them available on Google Maps, you can join this program. And I use the word gamified again. It's a gamified structure. They try to give you incentives for publishing these photographs. So I started publishing in February this year, and now I have 18,000 360-degree pictures on Google Maps. And those pictures have been viewed 14 million times. So it just shows you over a relatively short period of time how much content you can publish. And the reason why it's relatively easy to do that is because when I go anywhere, particularly if it's somewhere that one of the Google cars that they use for Google Maps can't access, I use this selfie stick and I mount this camera on it, and there's a Google mobile app for Street View, and I walk down the street like that, or walk through Bletchley Park, for example, and it takes a 360-degree image every 5 seconds. And so it creates a path, so if people want to be able to explore an area, they can do that. So I'll just show you some of the cameras that I use and explain a little bit about them. This is the later Ricoh camera. It's the Ricoh Theta V, and underneath is this microphone. It's a 360-degree microphone. So as well as recording video in 360 degrees and images in 360 degrees, it records sound in 360 degrees. So if you wear a virtual reality headset, and one of the things that I've got on my headset is on the footplate of a steam train, would you believe? So you put the headset on, and it's as if you are actually standing on the footplate of the train, and as you turn your head, the sound moves as it would do if you were stood on it in real life. So I hope you'll take the opportunity to have a look at some of these experiences on the headset. The other camera that I use a lot is the one that I was using for live streaming. Again, they all have these two lenses, one on the front and one on the back. This is the Samsung Galaxy Gear 2017 model. And the reason that I use that for live streaming is that the Ricoh Theta V doesn't really have any really usable tools for live streaming. It's difficult to live stream with one of these cameras. You need a bit of technical knowledge, whereas with this camera and some of other cameras, you literally connect it to your phone, and when you connect it to your phone, there's an option to stream live into Facebook or YouTube. So you've only got to press a couple of buttons, type in a title for whatever you're streaming live, and when you're ready to stream, you press live and you go live on Facebook. And every time that I've done some streaming, I generally don't tell people I'm going to do it, because if it goes wrong, you get egg on your face. But if somebody happens to go on your Facebook page and they say, "Oh, he's live," they look at it and it's okay. So I don't know how many. I can have a look later, but I don't know how.